Dear guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to our ESMT event series, Today Global Leaders. It's great to have you all here in presence and online as well. My name is Astrid Frohloff. I'm a TV moderator, a politics journalist, and an executive coach, and I have the pleasure to lead you today through the event. Today we will focus on a big global tech company which is driving and has driven digital transformation forward like very few others. I'm talking about software giant SAP. Many of you might work with SAP eventually. SAP is in the heart of almost every company, essential for day-to-day operations. And it's an interesting story. In very few years, SAP has evolved from traditional ERP solutions to cloud platform and to cutting-edge AI. And today, SAP is the largest software company in Europe and the third largest in the world. Means that SAP is, regarding Europe and Germany, the only German tech company with a global significance. And of course, it's a very great pleasure for us and a great honor, I must say, to welcome the person who was steering the developments of SAP in the past years and managed the companies in very rough times. Very warm welcome to Christian Klein, CEO SAP. So I'm looking very much forward to our conversation, but first of all, I would like to hand over the mic to our host today. We're very glad that we are hosted by ESMT again, and we're lucky that the president of ESMT is joining us today, Jörg Rocholl. A warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Astrid. Thank you very much for such a warm welcome. It's great to be here. And thank you in particular, Mr. Klein, for being with us. This is a great honor, a great privilege for us to learn from you. This is a very special series. The Today's Global Leader series is one in which we bring together real global leaders to learn in a context in which we can really discuss aspects in much more depth than we would normally be able to. And this is also important to understand what are current developments, current challenges, current dynamics, as Astrid had already outlined them in what is going to happen. It is also something that we stand for, that ESMT stands for, because leadership is clearly defined in moments of transformation. And transformation is probably the word that is very common to us in very many dimensions at this point of time. Transformation means there are periods of pressure, of disruption, of accelerated change. And it's also clear that leadership grows through dialogue, through intellectual challenge, and through the willingness to take responsibility when the stakes are high. And it's very clear that probably no other challenge or very few other challenges at this point of time are more relevant here than the question of artificial intelligence and how to deal with them. This is why the theme that we have for today, leading at full speed, in my view, couldn't be better describing of what is happening and couldn't be better capturing the reality that many executives face at this point of time. So questions of how to transform a global organization while it is still running at full steam, how to invest decisively in new technologies while delivering results today, so bringing these parts together, how to ensure that AI generates measurable business value rather than remaining a promise or a headline. And clearly, these are not simply theoretical questions, but they are really very important. They are real-life questions. Now, when we look at ESMT, our students from all over the globe, our executives who come to our programs, they are eagerly engaging exactly into these questions because, as you know, and many of you studying here or having studied here know this by heart, we would like to develop leaders who think globally and act responsibly, and who also understand that technological disruption, technological change is a source for sustainable competitive advantage. So therefore, to grasp and to develop this sustainable advantage is a very important part. And this increasingly is built on data, on capabilities, and of course on disciplined execution. Now, as Astrid had said, Christian Klein leads one of Europe's, maybe Europe's most strategically significant technology company at a defining moment. SAP, being one of the founding companies of ESMT, is really symbolizing one of the great European success stories. You could also say one of the success stories we would like to have many more of in terms of bringing high tech to Europe and the world, being a competitor to many other very well-known global companies, and really in that sense you could say being a real a role model for many other companies being built, and being in a stage of growth. Now, what is important about SAP is it's not just merely adopting AI, it's really embedding AI into the core processes that run global industry. As Astrid had said, global industry relies on SAP. And it's very important that under Christian Klein's leadership, SAP has made a deliberate strategic choice not to compete in building foundational methods or foundational models, but to focus on applied AI. So what it actually means to companies and how it can be applied to companies and into enterprise workflows. And there's a very clear, very clean conviction behind this strategy. AI creates lasting value only when it's connected to trusted enterprise data. So coming back to what I mentioned about the reliability of data. Now, at the same time, and that's also something that we need to follow, that we need to observe at this point of time, all this transformation is taking place under the scrutiny of capital markets. So capital markets now really watch, not only for SAP, for many other companies around the globe, what is happening. So investors expect proof of value, customers expect productivity gains, and employees expect clarity and direction. So you could say the traditional CEO model that we always think of, so to have the customer perspective, the employee perspective, and the owner perspective, or you could say the capital market perspective, all brings this together. So in that sense, the right perfect moment of time, the perfect timing to discuss these parts. All of this requires many aspects: reshaping organizations, developing new skills, forming strong partnerships, and in the end, and this is very important for us as an institution that has the E in our name, contributing to Europe's technological competitiveness in a globally extremely challenging environment, also one in which geopolitical shifts play a significant role. So this is why I couldn't think of a better topic for our series. I couldn't think of a better topic for us here at ESMT, the one that we will discuss today, because this is exactly what we would also like to take our students, our executives, our current or future leaders to go away with, to navigate, to be able to navigate complexity, to manage technological disruption responsibly, and in fact, to really create competitive advantages by being able to do so. We are thus extremely delighted, extremely honored, Mr. Klein, that you're with us here today. We look very much forward to seeing what it actually means to lead with full speed in such an era as we see today, and really to see how technological disruption can be turned into long-term strengths and long-term competitiveness for the betterment of the companies and the betterment of the economy, as well as the betterment of the society in which we live. So with this, I would like to thank, as always, and this is very important to me, the Karl Schlecht Stiftung, again, for supporting us. Likewise, I would like to really express my sincere gratitude to the Initiative Zukunftsfähige Führung for the continued collaboration, for the great support we receive, for making such a great enlightening and envisioning discussion series possible. And with this, I would like to first again thank very much Mr. Klein for being with us here today. And I would like to invite Uta Menges now to speak on behalf of our supporting partners. Thank you very much again. A warm welcome to ESMT. Looking very much forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jörg, and good evening to everyone. A very warm welcome to all who are joining us today here and also on-site in the live stream. And a special welcome to you, Christian Klein. Thanks for being with us today. My name is Uta Menges, and I'm very pleased to be here today representing the Initiative Zukunftsfähige Führung, the Initiative for Future-Ready Leadership. The IZF understands itself as a dialogue platform for questions like how must leadership evolve, those that employees, leaders, companies, and the broader economy can flourish together. We believe that answering this question requires multiple perspectives. It requires insights from business and academia, from practitioners and researchers, from people leading global organizations, and from those who are experiencing leadership in their daily work. That is why we create spaces for exchange, spaces where leadership can be questioned, explored, and even challenged. One of these spaces is this event series, Today's Global Leader, which we are proud to organize together with ESMT. A very fruitful collaboration. Thanks for that. Yeah, today's transformation is certainly the context in which leadership is being redefined today. In such times, companies like SAP play a particularly influential role. SAP does not only build software that powers organizations around the world, it also operates at the intersection of technology, global collaboration, and organizational transformation. And that intersection is directly connected with questions about leadership. We are looking forward to exploring these kinds of questions tonight. Yeah, before we begin the conversation, allow me to share a brief personal reflection. When I completed my degree in computer science only a few years ago, the landscape of potential employers looked quite different, but in one respect, it was surprisingly similar. At the time, 3 global companies were competing particularly strongly for graduates from university: Hewlett-Packard, IBM, and SAP. I'm sorry, I decided for IBM. For many of us as students, the decision about where to go was not only about the technology or the products these companies were building. What interested us as much as was the culture behind those technologies. We asked ourselves questions like, where can young professionals grow? Where do leaders trust their teams? Where is collaboration encouraged instead of competition? And where are new ideas welcomed? In other words, even back then, we were not only evaluating technology companies, we were evaluating leadership cultures. And I believe that this remains true today. Especially for younger generations entering the workforce, leadership culture is not a side topic, it is often a decisive factor. Which brings us back to the core idea of the Initiative Zukunftsfähige Führung. That leadership is not only about managing complexity or delivering results, it's about creating environments in which people, ideas, and organizations can develop their full potential. Yeah, and that is precisely why conversations like this we have today are so important. So it's a great pleasure for us to have you here today and to hear more about your thoughts of what leadership means today and what it might need to become tomorrow. And before we dive into the conversation, I hand over back to our wonderful moderator, Astrid. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uta. Thanks a lot. And before we dive into the conversation with Christian Klein and answer, hopefully, some of your questions, we will take a step back and look at the bigger picture. It's fascinating to see the speed and the intensity of the developments in digitalization and AI and deep tech innovations hitting the markets faster and faster. And to give us a broader perspective on what's really happening, we will hear, first of all, now from Thorsten Lambertus. He is Managing Director of DEEP, Institute for Deep Tech Innovation at ESMT, site lead of the Creative Disruption Lab, and a leading expert in digital transformation and innovation strategy. So welcome, Thorsten Lambertus.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Christian Klein. Great to be here. Welcome to ESMT. I'm looking at things from an entrepreneurial perspective. And when we look at SAP from an entrepreneurial perspective, the only thing that can be stated is an absolute success story. Founded in 1972, scaled globally, grew the company, entrepreneurial transformation, and now at a market cap of 225 billion. That's significant. So, of course, I cannot end my speech with such good news. There's also bad news. To some extent, I need to ruin the party here. Why do I need to do that? If we look at capital markets and how they look at what is the future value and who is creating that, if we compare ourselves to the United States, roughly 50% of the S&P market capitalization was created by companies founded after 1970, so roughly at the time when SAP was founded. And in Germany, this is maybe close to 15%. So the big other companies that we know, like BASF, Siemens, Allianz, Deutsche Bank, you name it, they were more or less founded. That is easy to remember. There's two big German, not German, Munich football clubs. The one was founded in 1860. That is clear what I'm talking about. And the other, Bayern Munich, in 1900. And so not only was that a couple of decades where great football clubs were created, but also all those big companies. The question is, and Jörg Rocholl already alluded to that, where are the future innovators, the future SAPs are coming from, because we need 10 times more of those. And of course, if we look at the city of Berlin, we have seen great examples, like Zalando, Delivery Hero, HelloFresh, Auto One Group, Trade Republic. They're all great examples for successful startups, but not at that global scale that is actually needed. Platform economies not led by us, cloud infrastructure not really dominated by us, major consumer technology companies also not dominated by us. We see that in the US and in China. Let me give you some numbers just to see where still the gap is in AI. First of all, in 2023, nearly 70% of the global hyperscale data center capacity was located in either the US or in China, and we are competing here for the remaining 30%. That being said, in 2024, 40 notable AI models were developed in the US, 15 in China, maybe 3 in Europe. And so across the EU today, only 13.5 of the companies actually apply AI. So that is the gap in ambition, in capital, and in the ability to scale that we need to close. That is one of the core reasons why in 2022 we created DEEP, the Institute for Deep Tech Innovation, to make sure that the latest technological developments are translated into business and that we prepare those companies to scale internationally. We do that across various verticals: healthcare, natural capital, cyber, defense, agri-food, and of course also in compute and AI. We enable researchers to create their companies. We make sure we mentor through the Creative Disruption Lab some of the best startups that are emerging also in AI, and then we make sure we hopefully that they can scale and collaborate with partners like SAP. We are playing offense. We want to spark that ambition and build more of those category leaders. Looking at AI from a technology perspective, it is that general purpose technology. It is as foundational as electricity or the internet. So why is that the case? There's 3 criteria for being a general purpose technology. The first one, it's applicable across various sectors. I think we can talk about healthcare, drug design, autonomous grid, precision farming, autonomous freight, you name the industry, we could all come up with great examples of where AI will play a role. Second, it improves continuously over time. If we look specifically at AI technologies, there are some really interesting recent results. So AI systems were measured completing tasks that take humans an average of 14.5 hours. And every 7 months, this number is doubling. So even more complex tasks are today already solved by AI, and even more complex tasks will be solved by AI in the future. The third point is, general purpose technology also sparked other innovations to emerge. It's not only a software play, it's not only the AI algorithm, it's the compute power powering that whole system. It's the efficiency on the energy level. Why is it so expensive today to train those AI models? Because of the energy intensity of that business. And then we're looking even at material science that might be able to enable more energy efficient compute. So it's that full stack of technologies that is complementary to AI that we need to look at. So this means we need to also innovate the full stack and look at all those different technologies. And we do that at Deep, and we do that also through our Creative Destruction Lab, one of the global leaders in startup mentoring. Just to give you again a very recent number, of our applicants for that program, every year, 16 sites across the globe, we see that 1,421 startups out of 2,322, this is 61%, have an AI or ML that they're using, machine learning, for their application. And again, we're looking across all sectors, that it's just that we're not talking LMMs here, or very specifically only AI. This is impacting all different sectors. Just to give you some examples of innovators that came through the program. Ada Health, I think this is well known here in healthcare, the AI symptom checker. Deep Genomics, a biotech startup using AI to decode RNA. Blue Jay, which just raised $160 million for AI-powered text research. $100 million for Federato, an AI underwriting platform. Geologic AI, $44 million for critical minerals discovery. Noah Labs, one of the healthcare applications here from Berlin. So you see those young emerging companies, but you also see companies that were started in 2014-15 and that are now scaling even further, and we need to produce more of those. We're also looking at the compute stack in photonics, in neuromorphic computing, quantum computing, Xanadu, one of the key examples that also ran through our flagship program. Superconducting quantum systems, DNA-based storage systems. So how do we also reduce the energy that it takes to store data, to move data? So that is all the innovations that we at ESMT here have a look at. The real opportunity for Europe, that is 80% of the world industrial data is locked behind corporate firewalls. And we want to look at manufacturing, and we want to look at how can we unlock the data to create value here in Europe. 3.5 million companies are generating 60% of the exports. That is the German Mittelstand. But only 15% of them are actually making real use of AI. And that needs to change. So industrial AI, that requires domain expertise, proprietary data, and there lies the competitive advantage. Let me close with SAP was not only a success in creating that company, but again, in scaling it globally. So it takes this courage also today for more leaders, building startups, scaling startups, investing into those innovators, also together with corporates to build more of those success stories. That being said, I'm really curious to see what it takes to lead that kind of transformation, and I'm looking forward to hearing your insights. Christian Klein. Thank you for the attention. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you very much indeed for setting the stage so perfectly, Thorsten Lambertus. And I'm happy to ask now our special guest to come on stage. I won't waste more time. Give a warm welcome to Christian Klein. Okay, so Christian.
It's the hot seat.
This is, yeah, it is, but it's comfortable actually, isn't it?
Very comfortable, very cozy.
You just flew in from the United States. You have been to China before, and we are very glad that you made it straight to the ESMT, joining us today. Thank you very much for this. What impression brought you back, looking at the really amazing speed and the developments in which digitalization is taking place over there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so first of all, welcome. Thanks for having me this evening. Yeah, I mean, as a CEO, you travel from time to time, and despite, having 2 young kids at home who don't like it always, it's important that you travel the world. Why? Because, for example, now in the Valley, I mean, we have our Palo Alto, our lab there, and we are coding our AI foundation, where we are doing a lot of work with the Anthropics, the OpenAIs. And obviously, it's for me also as a CEO very important on where is Anthropic going. They just also launched a new enterprise AI platform. Yesterday, NVIDIA, Jensen announced with NemoClaw also a new enterprise AI platform. And obviously, it's super, super important for SAP to also understand how we can connect to that. I mean, there are hundreds of millions of people already building agents with Anthropic. And so what does this mean for SAP? Yeah? Because yes, the share price, the market valuation was 220. It was once 300 billion. We are in a little bit in a penalty box, because no one knows where is the software industry going. And that's why, going to China, going to the US, it's very, very important for me to understand the big picture, where is the industry going, and to always also challenge a little bit our strategy and to see where does SAP need to go next.
I want to go deeper into this discussion and also talk about the role of Europe, of course, and digital sovereignty. But let's first talk about SAP itself, your company. I read a number which I could hardly believe. About 80% of the world's B2B businesses are touching SAP systems. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Well,
that is
amazing.
correct. It's massive, yeah. But when you see, I mean, that is, sometimes to do a little bit promo here for SAP, sometimes you hear in the press, it's this complex software, and there's this sometimes also pretty old school what customers still using. Yeah, but you can see it also the other way around. When you are traveling the world and you see an Exxon downstream, upstream running their whole business, transforming their business with SAP, going into the next generation software for renewables. You go to Samsung, the semiconductor, the electronics business. We run the whole commerce side for Samsung. You see the scale of SAP. And I feel, as much as I love my hyperscaler partners, but, infrastructure, come on. Software and now agentic AI in the future runs the world, and that is what always fascinated me coming out of university. I was never a coder, but I fall in love with business modules. I fall in love with understanding better how industries are running and connect this to tech, and that is what SAP is about. That is the fascination. And is it not fascinating to sit together with the HMM CEO, with Daniel, and talk about where is retail in 3 years from now, and connect this to great AI, and that is what SAP is about, and this is also where my passion is coming from. Yeah.
So, some managers claim nothing gets done without SAP. Other managers are joking that with SAP, everything takes twice as long. What is true?
Actually, to be very honest, sometimes both is true. Look, our software runs the most complex businesses in the world. Here for the German army, we are running very, very complex scenarios. There was also press about it. Really connected, disconnected ERP ownership somewhere in the ocean in war times, and how do you can still operate, your ship, your logistics, etc. And that is SAP. And is this a complex software? Yes. And we were born also over 50 years ago. And customers built a lot around it. So, this is a complex business. And then you customize it. And on-premise, there was no other chance than to customize it. So sometimes, it's very cumbersome for our customers to move to the new world. And they always remind me, Christian, I like the pace, what you are, putting in place for SAP, but also take care of us. We need to come with you. And changing and moving from an ERP on-prem, heavily customized, doing a lot of change management on the business side, because you need to connect the business always to it. And it's much harder than switching a mobile phone. You can do this in 1 hour, and that is of course also, in all fairness to SAP, that is why sometimes these moves to the cloud, and now with AI it's another big transformation for our customers, that takes time. But it's so rewarding when you are there, because then you see the new SAP. Of course, some customers are still, seeing the SAP from 20 years ago, and it's like when you are using a mobile phone 20 years ago, it also looks different than your latest mobile phone. And now for SAP, it's then not that easy always to immediately press a button, and all the customers are immediately on the latest release of the software.
So how did you manage to transform? I mean, this is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
You're saying it's not just a technical shift, it's also if I understand you correctly, a shift of mind, it's a cultural shift, it's a different leadership actually.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm talking to the C-level of our customers, and just yesterday, I talked to a CEO of a big German car manufacturer, and I said, hey, I wouldn't recommend to buy our next version of cloud ERP if you have no idea how to transform your business, because just the technical migration of an ERP, spend your money differently, because then I have just another customer who says, oh, where's the value of SAP? You need to see, your multi-brands on what is the best template for which business and how do you want to run it. And now with AI, that's also the challenge of SAP. We anyway need to redefine how a supply chain is running. We need to redefine how you collect cash. You need to redefine how you do your workforce management. And that is the key. Don't do an SAP project just for another technical migration. SAP is more than just switching to a cloud infrastructure. SAP wants your business, and this is why it's always connected with business and the change management. And there, look at our transformation. I'm not sure if someone is coding software anymore in 3 years in SAP, but if I'm as a CEO not telling, where SAP is going, the transformation won't happen bottom up. You need leaders who take some risk, who are bullish, who have a clear vision of the future, and then you can connect the tech to it. Just buying a piece of AI and believe you transform a company is so wrong, because then AI will never unfold the value what you're actually expecting out of it.
SAP is a quite young company, actually. The average age of SAP employees worldwide is around 39, if that's correct, while in Germany it's about 41. So does this help to get a cultural shift?
It's a dangerous, difficult question. I mean, look, obviously, when you do something very well for 30 years in your life and you code a very successful ERP, and then someone is coming and said you now need to say goodbye to your software, it's hard. There is change resistance in the organization, and there you need to also then, have, other people coming into the company and says, wow, but this, 2 years ago we talked about software as the service, as the coolest thing on this planet. Now it's question mark, now it's AI, but, then you need this, also other people coming in and say, hey, but this is, where the industry is going. Now, for me, it's always like in a football team, you need both. Yeah. Now in AI, I need people who build the AI foundation. I need, the best AI developers coming in, but I need the people who understand the data logic of an ERP, the process logic of SAP, because we need to train the LLMs now on exactly what we are building for 50 years ago, because the LLMs understand the unstructured world, but I need also the experienced people in SAP who understand how businesses run. And this is why you can't say is now 39 or 41, the wrong average, age for a software company. I feel it's actually a good balance. Yeah, you need the young people coming in with new AI code generation, the full stack developers, the data scientists, but you also need the experienced people who understand the industries, who understand the code from the past, and then you need to connect the two worlds with each other.
Let's talk about your personal journey, SAP. You grew up in Mülheim, which is just 12 minutes by car from SAP. Was SAP always something you aspired, you wanted to go, or was it just the big employee in the neighborhood?
Yeah, actually, it was more the latter one. I was not, to be honest, I was not with 15 sitting at home and coding. Yeah, that was not Christian. Yeah. No, my passion actually came when I was studying, and I got lectured on, business administration. I got lectured on how business is running, and then I could see, how SAP software is running those businesses, and that really got me. This is where I, for the first time in my life, at school I was also average, I had average grades, but there I really felt, oh, this is my passion, and this is where I'm actually also can really feel that this is where I want to spend my time in. And yeah, and then Mühlhausen is very close to it, but and then of course it was pretty logic that I'm starting my career at SAP.
And this also explains why you were leading your first team at SAP when you were only 27 or 28 or something, right?
Yeah, but I would say, what is great about SAP, I mean, now I'm also getting a little bit older, have some gray hairs, but, the point is back then, I mean, it's not about age at SAP. I was incredibly thankful that they gave me the trust not only to have my first team, but then I got sent to New York in the global marketing, sales. I learned, how we are marketing, how we run campaigns at a global scale. Then I was CFO of SuccessFactors living in the Valley. I got 2011, 12, the chance how to run a SaaS business, a software as a service business. And so at SAP, you get those chances, you get those platforms to develop your skills, to develop, both functional but also management skills. And that actually, I guess, then enabled me also to do the next steps then towards the executive board and then finally the CEO. Yeah.
And you became CEO of SAP in 2020 with only 39 years. There was this transformation going on before, of course. So when you stepped into the position, did you have a master plan in your mind, how to go on, how to go forward?
Yeah, I had a plan, and I was convinced about what is the right plan for SAP because, that so much confidence did I have because I oftentimes get asked, there's a young boy coming from Mühlhausen, not from the Silicon Valley, not from India, but now is running SAP. And I felt the skepticism back then, and there was not always, great press, great media, especially when the share price collapsed. But I saw SAP and I saw how our customers are working, and I saw SAP from many different perspectives. And I also know the culture really well. And the German governance is also very different to a US-led company. Yeah? You have to manage many more parties, the supervisory board, the workers' council, my friends, and then others. So you need to really understand the company. And then I was actually heading our own transformation, the start of the cloud transformation. And I saw actually the challenges with our software the same like our customers. I said, hey, with this customized ERP, we are completely lack the speed to change the way how SAP is working, from selling, from delivering our software, from servicing, because a cloud business model is completely different. But the system was very static. And then, Thomas Sauersig was back then my CEO, said, Christian, we do 4-year ERP migration. I say, are you nuts? Then SAP is then we are dead. So we need to come to a software which we can continuously innovate, where we can continuously update. So I was convinced about the cloud. I saw it at SuccessFactors as a CFO. And then I saw how hard it was to not only, just buy a piece of cloud software. For the many customers, the cloud software is not a problem. The change management on the business is always the hardest part. To say there is one general ledger in the company, no matter what you're saying, but this is, how we steer the company. There's one way how we do demand and supply chain planning. There is one way how we sell, and there are different business models, so we need to cater for that. And that was the hardest part. But then when I became CEO, I said, hey, when we are not changing our core ERP system and when we are not fundamentally changing our business model, this company is going to die for sure. Yeah? And you can say now the same about AI. When we are now not developing the smartest agents for finance, for supply chain, for others, then yes, I mean, into technology, the world is moving so fast. You always have to innovate. You have to change. Oftentimes, my employees ask me, Christian, why so much change? I said, I mean, look what is happening in the world. If we are not changing, others will just beat us. Yeah. So that is.
Okay, let me ask about the newest technology trends. You mentioned AI agents. Yeah, I mean, can you give us your perspective on these developments? Because this is a new development where software is no longer necessarily programmed by humans. So what does this mean for your core business model in the future? You said earlier, you're not sure about the future of software companies. So where does this lead to?
Yeah, there will be winners and there will be losers. Let's make sure SAP is in the winner box. The point is, it's not only about coding software. Yes, I mean the LLMs, Claude, also ChatGPT. We have Joule for development, so ABAP. And they are, of course, now accelerating the pace of innovation. Yeah, so software development, as we knew it, 3 years ago, will completely change. But it's much more than that. I mean, think about ERP today. It's a transactional system. So end users go in, do a financial ledger entry. They analyze certain accounts. They do a management analysis. They purchase something, whatever. In the future, there is an agentic AI layer, hopefully embedded, not coming on top of SAP by others, who are actually agents taking over the financial close, who are doing sourcing much smarter than any procurement specialist today. And so what we are now need to do to make sure is that we are leveraging our strengths, that is the business data, the business process knowledge. We also understand something about security and what the agents should do and should not do. And that we need to combine with the LLMs. And then we really need to make sure that there is an agentic AI layer which sits within the transactional system, who is so smart that no one comes to an idea to move away or to actually build something on top of SAP ERP. Yeah? Because otherwise, when that is happening, we are not selling so much, AI anymore. We are not selling, for sure, not any more software anymore. So we need to make this work. Yeah?
I mean, there is at the same time the discussion about how to gain control over AI and especially AI agents. I mean, there are these amazing examples of AI agents which were employing humans already to do their work. And another example, an autonomous AI agent independently launched a defamation campaign against an open source developer. So, I mean, these are examples, but how do we make sure that this won't go further?
Yeah. I mean, first, we are in a state, and SAP is not any different than Salesforce or Workday or Oracle or Microsoft. I mean, we are still in a stage where we are just building those agents. And of course, there are early examples where you show how much important security and governance is. But for us, like for any other software company, it's now very important that the product managers almost completely unlearn how we did run finance, HR in the past, and completely redefine how businesses will run in the future. Then we infuse those agents into the software, and these agents will become more and more powerful. The ERP will just become, a layer of transactions, a system of record. And then we need to also make sure, like we built, authorization profiles for end users in the past, who can change who can actually run which transaction. What kind of report are you allowed to see, not to see? And that is, of course, now what we need to build for those agents as well. Because, yes, there are examples of customers who developed with a third-party platform, not with SAP agents, who suddenly shared confidential financial data or payroll data with anyone in the company. You don't want to have that. And so you see how important it is, almost how you govern end users, human beings in the future. I mean, because the B2B world needs to be governed, now you need to also have a strict governance and security layer for that. And then obviously, then when you reach a level of sophistication of almost running finance in an autonomous way, then the question is, okay, who is then making ultimately the decision? And this is, something where we clearly say at the end there's still a human being, because I don't want to be in the press for messing up a financial close with our agents without having anyone anymore, a chief accountant of one of our customers still looking at the numbers. So I say, hey, you are still, accountable. You can use those agents for closing your books much faster, much smarter, more efficient, better transparency, But at the end, there is still a human being who needs to, make the decisions and who needs to sign off the results of the agents and what they are actually producing real time in the system.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like far, far away in the future, but I mean, you're already doing it. So it's how do you see the speed of all these digital developments? It's accelerating more and more. Right?
I mean, to be really honest, I mean, the truth is that, software development is already changing. I mean, in our coders, we have 50,000 people in development. I mean, when they are not using Claude, when they are not using ChatGPT, GitHub, or our own tool for developers, something is wrong. So that is clear. But again, why is software development so much in focus? Because the LLMs are super smart in understanding the code, unstructured content. This is where they are super well trained on. Now, the other world is then when the business data comes into play. And this is where SAP needs to be fast, where we need to be innovative. Because now we are building knowledge graphs. We build RPT-1. That is actually a prediction module where you can push a lot of data in, and we have a pattern on that. And you need almost no data scientist anymore to run a prediction for replenishment, for demand and supply chain forecasting. This is where SAP needs to win. And then you need to bring together those two worlds, the LLM, and then on top, our AI foundation, and that will take some time because now when you have the agents, you still need to bring them into production. And now go to one of our customers, have fun. There are sometimes 100 ERPs, you don't even know where to start with, different identity services, different data modules everywhere, so that you can just plug in and play. Is not the reality. So you still need to work then with the customer on the adoption of these agents, because again, the business world, and especially the one of SAP and the businesses we are running, these are sometimes very, very complex businesses.
I would like to continue talking about Europe, but in the meantime, I also want to let you know that after our conversation, you are invited to put questions as well. We're going to have a Q&A, and also the online audience is invited to send us your questions. I've got a notebook here, so I'll feed your questions in. We have talked about it. Germany and Europe have fallen behind the United States and China dramatically, one must say. How should we cope with this situation?
Yeah, I want to start first with business before I come to the public sector and the government and the European Union. First, we are still very strong in many industries, but if leaders of those companies are not taking now risk to transform and not changing their business model and not really using now this new technology to transform, this will hit us even more. So you see what is happening in the automotive industry, you see what is happening. We are not competitive on labor costs, we are not competitive on energy, so we need to be way smarter in how we apply AI to still, manufacture and run our business in a very productive way. That is the first part, and that is really has to do something with business leaders taking the risk, being bold, driving the transformation, and don't care so much about the share price firsthand. The share price will anyway go anywhere when you are not transforming. But of course, share price is important, but then you should really look at it from a mid and long-term perspective, because as a CEO, I need to make sure that SAP is performing mid and long-term, and I cannot just maximize profit for the short term, but then have no future business model. The second part is, of course, Europe. Yes, our founders also decided to start with IBM, and they had a good job, Hasso, Dietmar, and others. But then they said, hey, we actually believe we have a piece of hardware, a piece of technology, where we believe we can do something great with to solve a business challenge. Because Hasso especially told me, Christian, there was so much repetitive task and doing this every day. I felt we need to do something about that. And so they have given up a very good, well-paid job and said, no, I take the risk. I go into the personal risk of founding a company called SAP. It was hard to find a bank. So it was the Volksbank, a local bank, who gave some money. but it was really not easy. And there were a few times where they almost came to declare bankruptcy because they were running out of money, because again, they needed continuous investment to cope with the technology advancements in the industry. And then last but not least, obviously, what you then need is you need to scale your business globally. And now think about Europe. Now you have great startups here. I'm gonna meet later on Malte from Paloa. You have N8N. You have great startups. But honestly, I really admire those leaders because they take a lot of personal risk, and they are actually competing at a global scale against other startups in the US, in China, in a very regulated market here in Europe. And speed is everything. So what we need is, of course, also a framework where we can really reach much more speed. Because it's, on the one hand side, you need people like that who take the risk, who have great ideas, who are innovators. But then you also need the framework, and there the regulation, the bureaucracy, how long it takes to get people on board. I mean, that all requires time, what you don't have, to be, the fastest with your idea and the startup what you're having. And then last but not least, obviously, what is also very important, it's when you're going to China and the US. I mean, I talk about that, and I know sometimes in Germany it's not the most popular topic, but performance matters, and especially a young startup, when you have 100 people and some people just not perform, and you can't actually, you don't have the luxury of so much financial power. You need to have also better some reforms on the labor market and the regulations there, because you need the best of the best people, and so you need to hire them, but you also need to performance manage them if people don't perform, because otherwise you're falling behind. It's really about speed, and actually in the tech industry, especially the quality of the people what you're having. And this is, of course, where we need improvements in Europe. And last but not least, I would say in Europe, we call Europe a union, but it's by far not a union. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, even here in Germany, when you are selling, to a public sector customer here in Berlin, their data protection officer has a completely different for than the one in Baden-Württemberg in Bavaria. And now think about that. When you are a young startup and you need to show you the top line, and you need to show your investors how fast you are growing the business, and then you're sitting in a sales cycle and everyone has a different read on the AI Act, on the Data Act, on the Datenschutzgrundverordnung, and what you have. And no one knows, the one truth to it. And that is, of course, what you drives crazy, because I feel with these startups, SAP can still, invest and somehow make sure that we are coping with all of these regulations. But the young startups, they really would love, they need a stronger union at the end of the day.
Digital sovereignty, a very important topic, also for SAP. You wrote in an article, the assumption that owning physical infrastructure is the key to independence is wrong. So why is that? Can you explain this?
I mean, it's sometimes also here, I mean, I find it really remarkable that we are having also in the press, in the media, endless discussion about sovereignty. In the US, I mean, we are a European tech company. We are running big parts of the US government. And the regulation for sovereignty is solved. I mean, everyone needs to adhere to FedRAMP. We need security cleared personnel. We have, an own legal entity in the US, but then we can do our business. And here you find hundreds of different perspectives on sovereignty. And then you sometimes don't even know which data center is now needed, which, people you need to put on the ground. And what we will never reach, when you look at across the technology stack, there will be always a piece of hardware from the US, sometimes from China, but predominantly from the US. But that's not the end of the world. I mean, a piece of hardware doesn't mean we are lacking sovereignty. And I always say what is very important especially for in the regulated industries, for the public sector, where you need to have higher standards of sovereignty. There it's of course very important that your data, that you understand where your data is located, that you understand who is touching your data, talking about the US Cloud Act, and that you of course are safe when there are geopolitical tensions hitting, that you still can run your business. And but this has nothing to do, is now a piece of software or hardware coming from the US, from China, because some pieces, some hardware we just don't have in Europe. And that is something where we should just come to one regulation across Europe. That would be actually preferred. I mean, we are building here with Delos the most complex sovereign cloud in everywhere in the world. And still I have debates also in the press, because yes, Microsoft is putting some hardware in there. Okay. And some people still want to run Microsoft Teams and not open source, who works every third day. Also fair. Now, is this a big problem for Germany? I don't know if this is the biggest problem in Germany. But what is very important is that the German government and the German army knows that SAP is in full control of running the system, and that whatever happens in the world, we are still here and we can run the whole stack. So, but instead we are talking about, oh, there is a piece of Microsoft in it. I mean, Satya, he will also, he also invests here. And again, we found a module was highly, highly complex. We even decoupled it from the global network so that actually there is no data going out to somewhere in the world. And now you have the same in France. President Macron also wants their own sovereignty. I mean, bad news, he wants somehow slightly different, and now you're investing again. But what about having one sovereignty standard for Europe, and then you build one in Berlin, one in Paris, and one in Brussels, and all 27 member states adhere to that? I can tell you many startups here in Europe would love that, because they are, again, coping with that. We can invest into this craziness, but they really can't. And that's why also one standard would be so important.
Mm-hmm. Let me put one last question before we open the Q&A. So prepare your questions if you would like to. You mentioned the defense sector. SAP is, as you said, engaged with the German armed forces. I think 85,000 users you have at SAP. The US military recently signed a $1 million deal with SAP. So what exactly are you planning in this field, which is, of course, interesting for the industry?
Yeah, defense is one of course, of key industries. I mean, we run 25 different industries, but, yes, take US Army, they are running the supply chain and, predictive asset management on how to, having their assets, more up and running versus, being, in maintenance. That is key. And now with AI, you can infuse a lot of more intelligence into asset management. And this is, of course, for defense, for navies in the world, for armies in the world, it's very important. SAP is not active on the warfield. This is not our business. We are staying out of that. But, that is, of course, very important. But we do similar things for all companies in the world. When you are looking at a Rio Tinto, or when you are looking at, all kinds of, even sometimes in the chemical industries, asset management is for them key. Uptime of the assets of the factory is sheer money for them. Yeah. And this is, where SAP is very strong, where we are investing, and this is, of course, high value. And this is, of course, where SAP, yes, indeed, we are doing a lot of business there. Mm-hmm.
So please raise your hand if you have questions. We pass the microphone. There was in the second row a hand, and then you. Mm-hmm. Please introduce yourself briefly. Yeah, it's open.
Hello, good evening. My name is Puneet. I'm a student over here at the full-time MBA. One question that goes on in my mind a lot is about the workforce of the future. And you addressed that briefly by talking about the developers and how they're adopting AI in their day-to-day tasks. But broadly diffusing that across the workforce and convincing stakeholders, even in marketing, in sales, in HR, et cetera, to start using those tools, while also addressing their fear of replacement, that, oh, if I train AI to do my job, what will that mean for my job? What are your thoughts on this conundrum, and how are you addressing that within your organization? Mm-hmm.
First, it's a good question. I mean, first, you need to be very honest. When I would go on stage in our employee all hands and tell the people your job is safe forever, that would be a lie. And so the people in SAP, they are very well aware that the way how we code software today will change. Now, the good piece is that we are running now massive boot camps, Palo Alto, Bangalore, everywhere in the world, where we reskill them. You build Python, you need for building the agents, you do product management, does vibe coding. So we are reskilling. First, we are really trying very hard to bring, to give our employees the skills what they need in the future. But is there, of course, also, I mean, it would be also not good if I would now say AI is not leading to any productivity gains. I mean, what should I tell my customers? I mean, we are telling them, oh my God, AI will lead, to almost an autonomous enterprise. So, and then what about SAP? And my investors asking me the same. I say, Christian, I mean, come on. And so, yes, of course. I mean, look at marketing. Look at, other places. I mean, obviously, we will need less people for the same work what we are doing today. Now, SAP went through many transformations in the 50 years, and when SAP is successful, we're gonna hire also new people. We're gonna hire data scientists, AI full stack developers. If you are good in, understanding, a key industry and you can actually code agents, you are very welcome to join SAP. So that is now, these are the skills in the future. Yeah, you need to almost, go cross-functional and a good mix of business, agent building, AI development, and having the ability to understand complex processes. You are more than welcome to join SAP. But this is a super good skill, which is of high demand in almost every company, because also customers will build agents. Partners, the Accentures of the world will build agents. I mean, all of that is changing. And so while I'm now not saying, the jobs will not change, they will change, and we will become more productive, and we need less people for the same amount of work. There are also new roles which we are going to invest in. So in a few years, hopefully, you're going to see SAP super successful with regard to AI, but you also see that while our top line is hopefully growing heavily, we hopefully under proportional still grow our headcount of SAP.
Mm-hmm. So next question there in the back, please, the mic. Very last row, behind you. Okay. Thanks.
Hi, 1-1.
Yes,
yeah.
we can hear you.
My name is Vlad. I'm digital products consultant, and I'd like to get back to your point about AI layer in SAP, right? You've been discussing where SAP can play. If we look at any solution, it's simply speaking 3 levels, right? Data, processes, and interface. It's very hard to push SAP from data because of the legacy and how all companies dependent on that. But looking what latest products from Cloud can do, right? Write an actionable dashboard on spot from a user prompt, it becomes clear that integration and implementation of design and processes becomes kind of neglectable on costs, opening a huge opportunity for customization with the smaller companies. So taking that into account, how do you see SAP in this transformation going more into a headless solution and protecting the core and working with these new solutions, or being reinventing your front door and trying to compete? And if to compete, why do you believe SAP will win against model providers and lean startups?
Okay. Yeah. And the good news is we are now not going to compete, against the module providers, and I hope it stays like that. But I'm pretty sure it will stay like that. And it's I give you a quick explanation, but probably we need a dinner together to really go into more detail, because when you are looking at business data, it's SAP and non-SAP. That's why last year we launched a new data platform where you can do data joins. When you are using Databricks and Snowflake or other lakehouses, you have non-SAP data, you have SAP data. But it doesn't help you if you bring with zero copy now your data together in one lakehouse, because the data still doesn't match semantically. The ontology. What Palantir does so well is their ontology platform, but they're building it custom because they don't understand, in depth, how the data module of SAP works. Now we building a data platform where we are not only semantically combining SAP data with each other, but we are also matching non-SAP data. And then we are take Claude. We are now using Claude as an LLM. We also use other LLMs like Mistral here. But then we put an agent builder on top where we train these large language modules with our data module. Again, not only SAP, but also non-SAP, because as much as I want it, not all of the company data sits in SAP. And then we are using our process knowledge. So all the business objects, there are millions of business objects sitting in a logistics application, finance application of SAP. And now we are using these business objects, and we are again training the large language models to understand how to run source to pay, how to run a payroll, etc. Nothing of that knows an LLM today because they are not trained on that. They are trained on publicly available data. And even if one customer decides, I put my data into an LLM, still you need way more data so that the LLM understands the patterns. Because there are billions of analytical questions what an end user could ask to prepare the financial report for the management, or to do sourcing, or to run a payroll. And that's how we are combining the two worlds. And then when you are consuming either our out-of-the-box agents from SAP, or if you are building your own agents with Claude, but in our environment, in our SDK, then actually you get the benefits of an LLM plus SAP's AI foundation who understands data, business, data process, and governance. And also not forget, we talked about it, these agents need governance. Yeah, you cannot just put an agent live in a financial system, in a payroll system. I mean, there are huge security requirements what every company has, and so we are bringing that together, and that's why we are building an agentic AI layer. Now you can call it headless, yes. But at the end, the good piece is now a lot of customers who still look into very old SAP screens will soon look into Joule, who is actually our co-worker, who can work together with Copilot or Copilot work to really do that daily work. And then we are hiding the transactional system underneath and building with the LLMs and our AI foundation actually the business as a service layer to really feed the right AI, the agents with the right data, the right process, and the right IT governance. Yeah.
So we've got many technical questions from the online audience as well. It's all about AI agents. And I'm passing forward one question by Martin Thomas. What would you expect from SAP regarding making the huge trove of data available for leading AI applications?
Yeah, I mean, I already mentioned it before. I mean, first, SAP was almost in the past a very closed shop. So there was an ERP, there was a BW system, but it was only consisted of SAP data. And there was not an API-first strategy, so where you can also, extract data out of SAP or also put data into SAP. That has changed now with the Business Data Cloud. We allow for zero copy. We allow to do data joins between SAP and non-SAP data to really make use out of your data. And the good piece is you don't need to replicate data because that comes with costs, it comes with security concerns, etc. So we are really opening up our own platform. And then we are using the data, what the company has, to infuse it via a knowledge graph, again, into the agent builder, where you then can use all the tools you want. You can use Claude, you can use ChatGPT, and I will never compete on the tooling side with an LLM. That would be crazy. And that is not our domain expertise. Our domain expertise comes with the business side of the house, and that's how we are connecting the two worlds. And again, on the data side, we are harmonizing the data layer in every company right now, and that was 100% the right decision. There was always this belief in SAP, never share our data model, never, put too many APIs into the software because you can lose something. You can lose the crown jewel of SAP. But that's, in my eyes, completely wrong. You will anyway lose if you are not democratizing data, if you're not harmonizing data. And now in AI, high-quality data is anyway of such high importance. And you will rather see a lot of success on AI if you are really, opening up and you build these semantical data modules.
So that's a dramatical shift regarding the core of your business, right?
And you also watch out when you're at some point here. I see so many young, talented people. When you're once a CEO, the one side is the technical innovation, but for example, what Microsoft and many other companies did so well is commercial innovation. I mean, at the time when they come up with the packaging of Azure, with a lot of AI around it, they built teams, and everything was so nicely packaged up, and everything paid into Azure, into infrastructure consumption. The commercial model then coming up with consumption-based pricing is so important also to understand how a freemium model works, and the large community, what Jan built, was also a commercial success because he understood I will not charge right away for building agentic workflows. I rather want to build a community first, and then I will add value. And over time, you can think about how you can commercialize the success of your platform, the success of your community.
Okay, there are more questions. I think, who was the next? I think you with the black jacket. Yeah, just raise your hand again so we can pass the mic. Yeah, the young man over there, please.
Hi, thank you. My name is Max Raffat. I'm a part-time MBA student here and also a technical lead. And my question has to do with sovereignty and technology. So Jan LeCun, who's an ex-Meta AI chief scientist, he just had his startup with $1 billion seed in Paris, right, headquartered in Paris. And his idea is, we have the best physicists, we have the best scientists here, we have the best mathematicians. So what do you think about that? First of all, is that a sign that things are moving really good for Europe with regards to innovation in this specific aspect? And the second question is, if Anthropic and Gemini and OpenAI, all their solutions, all their LLMs lose this race actually, which is maybe not, it's hard to imagine, but what if they do and it's something else? Is SAP flexible enough and is the strategy flexible enough to immediately integrate those things and switch strategies midway?
Yeah, I mean, to come to the second part of your question, I hope so. Yeah, I mean, and yeah, indeed. I mean, look, looking back in my last week, I mean, we had a lot of conversations with the Anthropics, with NVIDIA, to see how we're gonna evolve our partnerships. Yeah, because no tech company these days can solve it, alone, and so you need to have strong partnerships and know where you have to win and know where you can easily partner because it's not of such a high strategic importance for the future of SAP. To your first part, I mean, obviously, I mean, Jörg, we are super happy here in Berlin. We have great talents we are, you have great university here. We have other great universities. We are getting great AI developers in Germany. Now, obviously, what is very important, and I tell this to my workers' council, to my HR department, and to my data protection officer, please let me use the code generation tools right away. Let's build agents in one day and not wait for approval in 2 or 3 months. I need to give the talents here in Europe the same chance to innovate like my talents in the lab in Bangalore or in Palo Alto, etc. So the talent we have here in Europe, unbelievable talent. But then we need to also play on on a playing field where this game starts with 0-0 and you're already 2-0 behind. And then the last piece, obviously, when you have a great idea and when you are fast enough, when you have speed, you can of course also win in Europe. But are your chances to win higher? Definitely, when also Europe, simplifies, when you have one union where you can scale your AI much faster without talking country to country about new data, security requirements, etc., etc. So, no, I mean, I have a lot of hope for Europe, and now in the applied AI space, and see where all the private equity money is going to. It's going into the startups on how to apply AI for certain industries, how to apply AI in business, which is a good sign because this game is not yet played. Yeah? And this is a unique chance because we have strong talents, we have great companies, we have a lot of industry expertise, we have data, so we have a lot of ingredients to be a front runner, hopefully, in applied AI, while I would claim on the cloud infrastructure, on the LLM. I mean, I'm not so sure if I would put my money into these, fields anymore. But again, there is a game to be played, and I feel Europe has a right to win there.
So there are many more questions. Please raise your hands, and we try to bundle maybe sir in the last row, and then another one over there, please, and we bundle those two questions.
Hello, hi.
Yes, it's working.
Hello, hi. Pranshul from Full-Time MBA. My question is currently a lot of ambiguities around how AI will adopt at scale and enterprise level. What are your thoughts on those part? At enterprise level, do you think at large portion and fields like medical defense, where the privacy and securities are crucial, AI is able to change that? And second thing is does SAP will open its legacy softwares for open source development where people can build applications using and open it for the world? Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, in the regulated industry still, I mean, obviously, it will take longer to adopt AI because more questions need to be solved from a data security, from a data privacy perspective. But still, I mean, these agents, look at the extensibility concept. Obviously, we are building agents which you can extend by different data privacy requirements. You can, change the certain authorizations what agents are allowed to do. So yes, AI will solve for that. And then last but not least, I mean, especially look at healthcare. I mean, the amount of data what you have in healthcare, be it in the private or in the public healthcare, is enormous. So, and I see both, when it comes to research, when it comes to patient management, where we are playing. I mean, obviously there are a lot of newer opportunities now coming with AI, and obviously we are also allowing customers, being a hospital and running, patient management with SAP and the software and with our traditional ERP, we of course also allowing them in the cloud to also build new agents on top of their legacy ERP system, but in the cloud, because on-prem, you need to code. The knowledge graph is getting better. The AI foundation, needs to be continuously updated because, of course, also the technology is getting better and better. That's why the cloud is so important as a foundation for the success of AI.
Mm-hmm. Over there, please. Can you ask your question, please?
And you talked quite a lot about this applied AI, and also you train LLM with your own data. And I'm wondering, was it ever a consideration in the company that you want to build your own foundational model? The context of my question is, I'm from China. I just came back last weekend. Mm-hmm. And I have 5 Chinese AI on my phone. Mm-hmm. And I switch when I come here to order US AI on my phone. Mm-hmm. And when I ask questions back in China, the answers from my Chinese AI, they were better. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To my Chinese question and also to all the things that are related to China or whatever. Mm. That's why I'm wondering, is ever, I don't know, a German chancellor coming to you saying, SAP, you are the best candidate to build a foundational model here?
Okay, thank you. Let's pass this forward.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're almost giving the answer to your question. I mean, you're saying there are great modules in China, and there are also good modules in the US. And so you already see, while these modules are, of course, super powerful, they're already getting commoditized, especially because there's so much open source, especially in China. So we are building, our AI foundation, but we are not building a pure LLM. We are using these LLMs. We can change the prompt. So when a customer says, I don't want to use Claude, I want to switch to GPT, or I want to switch to DeepSeek in China. For China, we offer DeepSeek. But then we are, putting our AI foundation on top, where we then put, the data, the process context in it. And this is, we need to really develop and research a lot in that space. Because again, it's not just you are loading data into an LLM. You need to, correlate data. You need to build these knowledge graphs. You need to, understand how the process correlates with the data. And that is, what SAP is doing. And we will now not build another large language model because, again, the advancements are so big already, and they are moving so fast, and there are so many in the market that this almost becomes a commodity. And the future of SAP depends on how good is our agentic AI for finance, for supply chain, etc. Because SAP will not sell any more software in the future if our applied AI is not the best in the industry. I mean, the AI, the agents are decisive for our future. That's why we are focusing on the agentic AI layer and use the best LLM module which is out there for the certain use cases.
Okay, so Uta, you raised your finger as well. Can we get the mic here in the first row quickly, please? And yep, so Uta Menges, please.
Yeah, thanks. So to switch the perspective from technology to leadership again, I want to come back to your message. You said there is a need for performance management, and I am one of the persons who is struggling with the phrase performance management, but this depends on the perspective on it. Does it only mean how can I fire low performance easier? Or does it also mean to adapt a leadership style which encourages people to perform better, which empowers people to make their own decisions, and which helps people to develop their capabilities? What is your perspective?
I mean, of course, I mean, of course, performance management means not only about firing people. It also means about, look at my career. There was brutal feedback I got once I joined Jim Snaper's organization. Kurt Oswald was also a mentor who was very straight, to me. But when I look back at my career, this feedback helped me a lot to get better. And when you have a culture of everyone wants to be the best friend with everyone, and you remove every piece of performance feedback, I mean, you're gonna fall behind. I mean, why is, it's the same in sports. Why is one club so dominating? Because you need to perform. But at the end, you also need to develop the people, of course. I mean, that is, of course, my main goal. To do the reskilling now for our people, because if I'm not giving them the help on the education, on the training side, how can I expect performance? So, but we need to be because always in Germany, performance is so, related to, this is always about firing people. Of course not. But if you're not performing for the second or the third years and someone is not willing to stand up and to contribute to the team's success, and it's not only about performance in your day-to-day job, it's also about teamwork. I mean, at a certain point, you also have to tell someone, sorry, the team here has only so much people, and they cannot just carry, with them every year, while you are just leaning back and you don't even have the willingness, to learn, to continuously, perform and contribute to the team's success. So it's both at the end of the day. Yeah.
So I'm afraid that time is running out very, very quickly. I would like to put one last question in regard to the many young talents we have here in the audience. This is a question, and let's bridge this back to the beginning. If you would meet the 19-year-old student you once have been, and you just would start at SAP, what advice would you give him today, from your perspective today?
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, when I look back, first, it's always very important to follow your passion and to love what you do. Because, when you want to build a career, also a great management career, if you're not loving what you're doing, I don't believe that someone can really perform well. The second piece, obviously, is that even in my role today, I'm continuously learning. So I'm sitting together with experts. I have young talents with me at lunch in the canteen. I want to really understand, what is going on in the organization, what is going on in the market, and then also sometimes admit that, I'm, of course, also not always, decided everything in the right way, so you have to course correct. And then the third part is, for me, now you can say there are many tech CEOs in the world. I'm Christian, the other is Satya, then we have, yesterday we had Jensen and so on, and But you need to stay very authentic. At the end, I have SAP to run. You, of course, can learn from others. You can watch. You can see how they manage the transformation. But at the end, when you're standing in front of your employees, of your customers, be authentic, be yourself. That is, I guess, also very, very important. And then the last piece, talking about performance. I didn't build my career only by, performing in my day-to-day job. I mean, it's very important to build strong networks, is to be a great teammate, to help each other, to help out each other, to solve problems, no matter if it's within the boundaries of your job or cross. You don't believe how happy I am when someone is coming to me and said, Christian, this business challenge is solved. And it really was a business challenge where so many parties had to contribute, because then I don't have this silo, acting in which you oftentimes see in a large company. And I can only encourage the people, be a great teammate, work together, cross, because that will be very rewarding. The CEOs, the C-level is really looking for the people who solves business challenges and is not putting the challenges to me on the table and says, Christian, you need to help me because I need, 10 other people, or these people don't contribute. So that is, I guess, also very important.
So that is a very valuable advice, I would say. And thank you very, very much for being with us, for sharing your thoughts, your knowledge. We had a great look into the future, what will come up, not only with SAP, but also regarding digitalization in the future. So thank you very, very much. Christian Klein. Thanks a lot. Vielen, vielen Dank.